Welcome back to My Dad Watches The Bachelor. I'm Meredith, and I'm here with my co-host, my dad.
Hey, Meredith. Happy 4th of July. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, we are past the 4th of July. We're looking towards the next holiday. Mine is not until Labor Day, so that's a while from now.
Well, this is true, but getting to watch The Bachelor must feel like a holiday every Monday for you.
Oh yes, it's the most exciting thing I do every Monday, I would think.
Well, that's quite the honor for the franchise there. So I'm glad they're plowing ahead.
Yeah. Although yesterday I thought the episode was a bit boring.
I guess it was a bit boring. I mean, I appreciated the schedule got back a bit to normal in that we had like a group date. We had I guess 2 one-on-one dates. We had a rose ceremony. I like the closure there.
Yeah, we did get a lot of closure, but I just feel like we didn't get very much drama. I feel like we've had a lot the past few weeks, and so we really fell off this week. We didn't even get much between Blake and the men, with Blake coming in, and we had like a few awkward silences, but there was no shit talking happening.
And to my surprise, I thought that the bro mob was going to turn on Blake, but it appears that they have a new target in their sights with our friend Hunter.
Yes, the union has someone new that they have their eyes on.
So why don't we start with our highlights? Because I sort of enjoyed Blake trying to tame the lions when he came in there, and I sort of laughed a bit when Blake got the date card and there's all this silence, and Blake looks around and says, well, obviously that's the best case scenario for me, and just quiet. I chuckled at that.
Yeah, Blake seemed to be entertaining, dealing with the tension with the men, saying this is not what I wanted to happen, but I want y'all to be cool with me, but I understand you're not going to be. And I thought that the men handled it pretty well, considering how poorly they've handled everything else this season.
I suspect that there is some simmering going on that still could bubble up as we proceed through our journey of love.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm sure there was a lot of shit talking that did occur once Blake went on his one-on-one, but for whatever reason we were not shown that. So maybe we'll get it later. Maybe we have better things to see. Who knows?
Well, what highlights did you enjoy in last night's show?
Well, I always enjoy the obscure country artist that The Bachelor brings in every season. So we got to hear Lane Hardy perform during Blake and Katie's one-on-one. I found some good artists that I still listen to today from one-on-one dates. And so I am always excited to see who they bring in next.
And I enjoyed his little tune there. I was checking him out on Apple Music and trying to figure out if he's a legit performer, and seems like he's done a few things. So, and in my old age, I tend to appreciate the country twanging a little bit more than I used to. So I enjoyed Lane Hardy. Good job by him. And I'm sure he's going to get a nice Bachelor bump. So good for him.
Yeah, good for him. I also enjoyed Wells Adams coming back to host the group date. I'm a big Wells fan. He's quite entertaining. I say this every time we talk about Wells. He's engaged to Sarah Hyland from Modern Family. Haley Dunphy, you still look confused, but you know who this is. We talk about it a lot.
Well, you're talking about the two guys that were helping out with the battle ball thing?
Yeah, the one that wasn't gay.
Yeah, and who was the other one?
I feel like maybe we've seen him before. Is he the guy that does the photography sometimes that you usually say you like, or something along those lines? He looks familiar.
I can't remember the names of any of the people on the show. I feel fortunate that I can remember our hostesses and Katie's name. So I don't know who these people are, but they were certainly flamboyant and entertaining.
Well, Wells wasn't that flamboyant. He is not that way, but Wells is also our bartender on Bachelor in Paradise, so we will get to see him more soon.
Yeah, well, you will. I'm not sure I will, but okay. Um, I well, and speaking of it, I kind of enjoyed their group date, their bachelorette bash ball battle, I think is what they called it, up until the time that Hunter went insane and they reminded us of why football players actually wear pads and helmets and they tried to kill one another.
I I enjoy a good competitive sporting event. I would like to see multiple men compete for my heart as well while wearing little wrestling thong overall things. I thought they all looked pretty good, and I enjoyed Michael A's comment about how this was the worst day of his life because everyone looked shredded and he has his dad bod. I appreciated that comment, but I put more of the group date in a low for me.
All right. I put the uniforms in the low, but I guess that's our differing Meredith and Dad opinions there. Um, I enjoyed the New Mexico scenery with Blake and Katie riding their horses around. It looked quite lovely out there.
It
So
looked like a desert, nothing too great to
yeah,
me.
beautiful mountains and whatnot. Come on.
It seemed okay. I liked Andrew S's one-on-one date more than I liked Blake's. I thought that it was like a very cute and sweet date where I guess production had all of these note cards and questions set up and like pretty string lights for Andrew and Katie to go through, um, and the light up balloons. And Andrew S just seems like a stand-up guy.
I like Andrew S., but my sense was that her date with Blake, they seem more like equals in terms of the conversation going back and forth. And I felt like with Andrew S., he really seemed like a very fun, nice guy, but I just felt like she was having to lead the conversation and pull things out of him, and it just didn't. They don't seem to click as well as she did with Blake and some of the other guys.
I noticed that as well, but then all of Katie's interviews, she was saying how much she liked him and how great of a date it was. But I had been saying during the date, I was like, I don't really see the chemistry there between them. But I guess Katie felt it anyways.
Well, as I said, he seems. I would like to hang out with Andrew S. He seems like a really fun, cool guy. Fun to be around. But I'm doubting that he's going to be there in the Final Four. But we'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Well, we did see in that like Uber teaser trailer at the end of the season, we still have some scene where Katie's like running down a hallway screaming his name, like running and jumping into him in a big hug. Like it seemed very emotional. So it seems like Andrew's going to be there for a while. Maybe he's like a slow burn for Katie.
So the other thing I found interesting, and it was the first time I can recall seeing a viewer discretion warning pop up during the show, which came up before Katie discussed some of her past and some difficult things that she had been through. So I don't mean that as a highlight. I just found that to be interesting. I don't know if I've seen that before, and I guess a question to you as my 25-year-old daughter. They talk a lot about people being sex positive. Is this a new term, or is this a Katie term, or is your generation just talk about being sex positive? Enlighten me.
I would say that it's not like a new term. I don't really know if it's really a term at all that we use. I think it's just that your generation is a lot more closed off when it comes to sex and discussing it than my generation is. We're much more open about it and willing to have those conversations. It's not a taboo subject that stays in the bedroom.
Well, that's good. You should just have it with certain people, though. You don't need to have it on podcasts or like with lots of people.
I mean, some of us have it on national television in front of everyone.
Well, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not necessary. It's okay. If you're going to be intimate with somebody, you should talk about it, but you don't have to talk about it with the general public, right?
Luckily for our listeners, I will not be talking about my sex positivity with my dad.
Your dad feels fortunate about that as well. So
All right, we ready to get into the lows?
let's.
Okay, so going back to this bash ball battle date.
And you want to bring up the tights, right? Those were definitely a low.
No. We already discussed those as a high. We saw in like the previews that someone was going to get injured during this date. And, I'm just like cringing, waiting for it to happen. And in my mind, I'm like, anybody but Greg and our dad, Michael. Like, I don't really care who it is, but protect those men. And poor Michael just gets rocked so hard. And I thought it was like Hunter that was going to be hitting him from the previews. It seems like it is. But then we realize it's Justin that's like smacking him from the back. And that just makes it even worse because I'm a big Justin fan too.
So I wasn't sure if it was Justin or Aaron.
I think it was Justin. Justin seemed like very remorseful about the whole situation and went up and apologized to Michael afterwards.
Well, he showed good sportsmanship, but he pretty much decapitated the poor guy.
I know. We need to be more careful around Michael. He is a dad. He is a single dad. His poor son, James, really can't handle losing another parent.
Agreed.
Speaking of, this is also a low for me. Michael A. just makes me very emotional. Listening to him talk about how his wife's birthday was the day before and how he like had a lonely, thoughtful day, like celebrating her, and it just made me tear up a little bit. And then, when he explains that to the men, it was so emotional as well. And my poor dear Greg just could not handle that story, and he was almost like sobbing. Like it was like how much he was crying when he told Katie that his dad died.
Yeah, I put down as a low, and again, I find this to be a sensitive issue. It's a little bit of a personal issue, but I think he's bringing up his deceased wife a little too much for me. And
it's a big part of his life.
I don't know. It almost feels like he's using that to lasso in Katie, and I'm just not comfortable with it.
No, Michael A. is not a lassoer. That's not.
And I feel like he's going to end up with Greg. He and Greg seem to be cuddling on the couch.
No, that was Greg and Connor.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just not comfortable with that. So I had that as a low light as well.
Well, we have it for different reasons. I think that Michael A. is very genuine.
Well, speaking of your friend Connor, I think he needs to button up his shirt. He brings out the guitar during the cocktail hour and he's singing her a song and his shirt's unbuttoned. He is not that shredded. I'm not sure why he felt the need to have his shirt unbuttoned. Maybe the reason being he looked like he might have gotten severe sunburn while he was out playing battle ball, and maybe the shirt was hurting his sunburn. I don't know. What was your take on that?
I honestly didn't notice his buttons, whether there were too few or too many buttoned. I couldn't get past how cringy it felt that he was singing a song he wrote for Katie on his ukulele. I mean, he had a very nice voice, but anytime someone's singing on The Bachelorette, I hate it. It's just, you want to talk about wrong reasons. Is this man trying to kick off his musical career?
Well, you seem to like Lane Hardy. What's wrong with Connor? Come on.
Lane Hardy is not trying to date Katie.
Well, I found it. Certain people can do I'm not going to button up my shirt thing. Connor does not seem to be that fellow to me. So that bothered me. And while I'm giving out fashion advice, James needs to ditch the chain. James had this silver mafioso-like chain going on. He looks sort of slimy to me. I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, the chain with the black turtleneck and like the slicked back hair was definitely giving me Italian mob boss vibes.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. I don't notice Connor's fashion, but I do feel like we have bigger fish to fry with him, with like the singing and his very, very poor kissing skills. I, I, just, I liked Connor B at first, and he's just like plummeted for me. Not interested at all. But as a low, I put like all of the cringy group date stuff that was happening during their like little one-on-one times. Connor singing a song on his ukulele. We had Courtney getting wrapped in toilet paper and talking about how he could like handle tough shit and he was on a roll or whatever. That was bad. And
Well, and she ultimately flushed him.
yeah, she did flush him. We had Mike P, our resident virgin, asking if he could get to first base. Friendly tip, some dating advice from the 25-year-old. Girls don't really like it if you ask if you can kiss them, and really just harshes the vibe.
Well, let me just tell you, it's a jungle out there, and when you don't ask, you're also asking for trouble these days. You know, it's hard to know when yes is yes, no is no. So I appreciate that he asked. I don't I don't want some I don't want some hooligan pushing himself on my daughter. So asking to me is okay.
Us young women have gotten very good at the swerve the kiss, turn it into a goodbye hug. But Katie seemed to like to kiss everyone. So I don't really think that Mike needed to be asking. And him like throwing in some baseball references, like, dude, you're just getting to first base. This is week 5.
Yeah, it's like you're going to territory that many people have visited before, Mike. So you're a little bit late to the party there.
Yeah. So overall, like what all the men were doing on the group date with their individual time, it was not good.
Well, my last thing, it goes back to the rose ceremony is, and I say this almost like I should have put it as a highlight, is Hunter, who just doesn't care about your bro code, because just because he's got a rose, he's still going to shoot his shot. But the bro mafia is going to be coming for Hunter, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think Hunter's being very hypocritical because I feel like he was really helping lead the charge against Thomas. And, you're stealing lots of time from her to deal with your problems. Like, he was the one confronting Thomas, being like, are you thinking about being the bachelor? Like, he was really leading the charge there. Now he's just like, oh, I got a rose. Katie likes me. Like, I can do whatever I want. And I personally believe that Hunter getting the group date rose was a producer pick and not a Katie pick.
Why do you say that? And how do things like that even happen?
For drama. I mean, why would Greg or Michael A not get that group date rose?
I assume the reason that he got the rose was because he showed these beautiful pictures of his kids, and Katie was so taken that he wants me to meet his kids. She fell for that whole trap. So I assume that's why he got the rose.
Well, I would have given the rose to Michael A and his dead wife's birthday over pictures of Hunter's kids.
Well, I might have suggested that she give it to Michael A just because he was pretty much decapitated during the game, and sort of a pity rose. But that's.
There are many reasons to give Michael A this rose over Hunter. I don't even think that she's physically attracted to Hunter. This was definitely a producer pick.
Okay.
Before we move on from our highlights and lowlights, I'm going to go into my Greg lights, as you recommended last week.
Okay.
So some Greg moments that we got to share this week. Greg and Connor B cuddling on the couch together. We have quite a bromance forming there. We love a man that has a good bromance.
It's okay. To me, a bromance is respect. I don't cuddle on the couch with my bro friends. We sit on the couch, we watch ball games, we talk respectfully, but we don't cuddle.
Maybe this is another generational gap thing that we have going on.
Okay, this is news to me. Go ahead.
We also love a man who's in touch with his emotions, watching Greg cry again, hearing about Michael's life story and losing his wife, and you can just see Greg like relating it to him losing his dad and being so awestruck by how positive and upbeat Michael is every day. And it's just, Greg, I do feel like Greg was starting to spiral a little bit in this episode, coming from being the lead, like front runner and realizing Katie's making more connections with these men. But then my favorite was when Katie told Greg that he had resting sad puppy dog face. Because he really does. He does always look a little sad and lonely, and Katie's always worried about him and worried that he's going to want to go home. And I thought it was really cute that Greg was like, oh God, I don't want to have sad resting puppy dog face. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for you. And he said he was falling in love with Katie. Greg's got to be our winner. If he can just not spiral too much.
Well, and didn't Katie make him promise that he wouldn't leave or something like that?
Mm-hmm, she did.
Yeah. So obviously a strong connection. He's certainly, if not the front runner, a front runner.
Mm-hmm. All right, we ready to get into our right reasons?
Okay, what's your right reason?
My right reason I'm giving to Katie. I think that she was very articulate with the men while explaining why she allowed Blake to join her season. She was saying that I'm following my heart through this process, through the good and the bad. I'm going to just do what I think is right. They didn't seem happy about it, but they seemed to understand. And then again, she was open and vulnerable about her sexual assault. When Blake asked her what made her so sex positive, I think that she does a good job of just being open and talking about things that other people may think are taboo.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. I will say that I gave Katie some consideration for wrong reasons this week, although I didn't go that way, because I do think she made mistakes in, number one, so quickly giving the one-on-one date to Blake, and number two, giving the group roast date to the Neanderthal, Hunter. You were going to brush that off as a producer issue, but
I think both of those are producer picks.
I had issues with both of those, and I can't. I guess I could give the wrong reason to the producers then, but Katie was the one who actually the words came out of her mouth. But for right reason, I gave it to your heartthrob, Greg.
Oh.
Just he seems so nice. He seems so vulnerable. He seems so sensitive, and it is so obvious that he and Katie have a connection. And I thought the way he approached Katie during their time together, just to make sure that she knew where he stood, was appropriate and important. And obviously, he's also got a connection to Mike, the widower, and Greg just seems to really care and really be invested, which will lead to ulcers and his inevitable emotional breakdown. And I know that we'll be watching and eating our popcorn as that happens.
I think Greg's going to pull it together. I think he's going to be okay. I saw another one-on-one. It looks like Greg's going to get at some point where they're making out on a bench in the rain, which is every girl's dream at this point to do with Greg. So gonna have some like seething jealousy during that episode, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
All right. What's your wrong reason?
So I have two. I'm starting off with Aaron. I'm a big Aaron fan, but he was really just trying to gather the union of men to rally against Hunter. And I don't think that Aaron got my message that I've broken up the union and he can't do this anymore. We're done, Aaron has gone through the zipper salesman. He's gone through Carl. He's gone through Thomas. 3 strikes, you're out. That's enough. We need to stop this. However, I'm not a big Hunter fan, so I also put him in my wrong reasons because he's kind of starting to turn into an aggressive psycho.
I had Hunter as my wrong reason.
Whenever James came to steal Katie away from him at the cocktail party, even though Hunter already had a rose, Hunter was freaking out and like saying, I lost that time. I'm going to get it back. Like it just felt very aggressive. And he was also very aggressive during the group date. And he was the first one to throw like a hard hit, which apparently means that if one guy does it, all the guys are going to do it since men have small pea brains and can't make decisions for themselves. But I guess he threw the first punch there and egged everyone on.
Well, he was my wrong reason as well. It certainly seemed like his testosterone supplements must have shown up in the mail this week because he just seemed to be getting nutty and was headhunting at the battle ball. And um, I suspect he's probably urinating around his telescope to demonstrate what his territory is and to keep the other guys away from it because he seemed to turn into Neanderthal man.
Yeah, and I think that for some reason he just thinks that he has a really great connection with Katie and that he's a front runner, which anyone with two eyes can see that he's not. So I think that like this is he probably could have stuck around longer if he was just normal and chill, but like this aggressiveness and coupled with the fact that Katie doesn't like him that much, I imagine he's going home within the next 2 weeks.
But yeah, watching some of the teasers, it looks like he's around for a while. But I guess maybe they're just trying to lull us to sleep on that.
Maybe. Who knows? I don't see Hunter lasting much longer.
Okay. All right. Well, before you share your MVP, I did get a couple of emails from a listener at mydadwatchesthebachelor@gmail.com who actually was emailing last night. Why didn't the tall, goofy guy in the back get a rose from Katie? And what's the deal with the short guy? I think he meant Hunter. Well, the deal with the short guy is he's an aggressive psycho, as Meredith said. So just live with that. And I'm not sure which tall, goofy guy in the back he meant. I don't know, Courtney or there are a couple of goofy guys that got their walking papers. I just don't think they distinguished themselves.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the three men that went home, Courtney, Josh, and Andrew M., I knew nothing about Andrew M. or Josh, and I only knew about Courtney because of his name. So I don't know what their deal is because we don't know them at all.
I think I had Andrew M. in our final four. I think he might have been a district attorney or assistant district attorney, but he's done nothing to make one think that he should be still on the program. So sorry, Andrew M.
Yeah, we, as a top four update, we both have two of our top four left. We both have Connor B, and you have Brendan, and I have Justin. I am feeling better about my Justin pick than your Brendan pick, but I don't feel like either of them are top four. I don't even know.
I don't think Brendan's
at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could pick Brendan out of the lineup at this point in time. I don't think he's done much to stay there.
No, he's Canadian though. They do well, but
yeah, but we have a new Canadian on the scene, so that's going to be a problem for Brendan. I don't think he's going to be the top Canadian with Blake around. All right, what's your MVP? Who's your MVP?
I'm giving my MVP to Andrew S. I think that he's just a really sweet and kind-hearted guy. He's so nice to Katie. We got to hear him open up about his childhood and how his dad went to prison when he was 6 and how he really channeled all of his feelings into football, but then it was hard to, play his football games and seeing all of the other dads there supporting their son, saying how proud they are and how he just wanted that support and validation too. It was like a very emotional moment. And then he also opened up about his past relationship as a Black man dating a white woman and how she was worried about what their children would look like and how people would think that they weren't hers and how that really impacted him. And I thought that he and Katie had really mature discussions about those topics. And he just seems so genuine and nice. I'm a big Andrew S. fan. I don't see him winning, but I see him either A, thriving in paradise, or B, as a great bachelor.
Yeah, I think he's a very worthy selection by you. So good job there. And I don't know if he could pull off being the bachelor. I'm just not sure he's incredibly nice, but I'm not sure he can carry the conversations with people well enough to be the bachelor. From what I've seen on your Paradise Island show, I think he would have a grand time there. I think he would be in quite the demand. So I think we'll see him again on the franchise, shall we say?
I agree.
So,
do you have some fatherly advice to wrap us up?
So a few things I picked up. Number one, from your friend Andrew, a couple things. Number one, just being there for your family and your kids as a dad that made me appreciate all the soccer games I got to attend for you, and all the YMCA and rec games that I went with your brother and all that stuff. So I appreciate it now, particularly now that I don't have to go to as many. That's good. So that was good. I like the fact that at one point Katie said, Andrew makes me laugh. And it just made me think of the importance of laughter and humor in a relationship, and how that can be such a solid piece of one's relationship foundation. And then my last piece is I'm a little tired of these guys complaining about I didn't get my time sort of thing. And just some sort of adult advice here. If there's something that you want, you have to go ask for it. You have to go get it. You don't wait for it to be given to you. So I guess I'm not very sympathetic to these guys that are sitting around saying, oh, I didn't get time with her tonight. And they seem to be sitting on their butts just chatting with the other guys. If you want something, you got to go get it. You got to ask for that time. So don't wait around and wait for people to give you things. Let's go get it.
That's great. Love the go get 'em attitude. Good fatherly advice today.
There you go.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode. Join us next week to hear more about Katie's season from the right perspective and my dad's.